Rishi Vibhandak was a sage of Kashyap lineage who, in search of self-realization, started doing penance and meditation from a very early age. His unending penance gradually brought him superhuman powers, much to the envy of Lord Indra. Fearing Vibhandak can usurp heaven with his powers, Indra sent Urvashi to distract Vibhandak and end his meditation. Urvashi was able to break Vibhandak's meditation and asked Vibhandak for bearing a son with her, threatening to commit suicide otherwise. Vibhandak, not wanting to be the cause of someone's death, gifted Urvashi his semen and told her to impregnate herself. Urvashi's mission was accomplished. Vibhandak's meditation was broken. Urvashi used her powers to transfer the semen into a deer, thus impregnating the deer. The deer soon delivered a human baby, but with deer horns, and thus Rishyasringa was born, a baby with deer horns. With his penance broken, Rishi Vibhandak developed extreme hatred towards women and all feminine entities for that matter. He decided to raise Rishyasringa in an isolated part of a forest, completely devoid of any forms of feminine entities. Rishyasringa thus never saw any girl or woman and was never told of their existence as well. Gradually, under the able guidance of his father, Rishyasringa gained unassuming yogic powers. A so-called Vibhandak Line was thus formed around this isolated patch of the forest, which was the way of life for Rishyasringa, an invisible code of conduct drawn for him. The forest where Rishyasringa was put up came under the jurisdiction of the kingdom of Anga. King Rompada, the ruler of the kingdom, was going through a hard time as his kingdom was engulfed by drought and severe famine. As things went from bad to worse, Rompada was told of an immense power radiating from within the forest, which could presumably end the drought and bring prosperity to his kingdom. Rompada's messengers brought him complete information about the yogic father-son duo and how Rishyasringa's power could possibly put an end to his misery. Vibhandak, aware of the developments, ordered his son to reject any attempts from the Anga kingdom and to strictly follow the Vibhandak line. To lure Rishyasringa out of his penance and help the kingdom, Rompada sent his daughter Shanta. Rishyasringa, encountering a woman for the first time in his life, was awestruck at this life form. However, remembering his father's orders, did not act on his instincts. As time passed by, however, his infatuation grew. His thoughts began to linger around the lady. The word beautiful started making sense, and Rishyasringa started wondering if he could have a future with her. A voice in his head, however, reprimanded him immediately. The Vibhandak line was not to be crossed. As days went by, Rishyasringa started getting distracted from his meditation and found himself thinking more and more about Shanta. His father was in deep meditation somewhere in the jungle. A conflicted Rishyasringa decided to speak to him once he was back. Vibhandak noticed that his son Rishyasringa seemed different. Rishyasringa told his father about a special visitor he had been seeing lately, someone he felt drawn to. Vibhandak worried that this might distract his son from his spiritual path. He reminded Rishyasringa of his purpose and warned him about the dangers of getting too attached to worldly things. Despite his father's warnings, Rishyasringa couldn't shake his feelings off for the visitor. As he went to fetch water from the well, he struggled with the decision to follow his heart, knowing it might lead him away from the life his father had planned for him. The next morning, Rishyasringa completed his duties, cleaned his father's place of worship, watered the plants, and fed the cattle. He prepared his father's favorite dishes and made the special kheer which his father loved. Chores completed, Rishyasringa then left for Anga, his mind clear about what to do. He was enamored with Shanta, who had come into his life, and Rishyasringa was ready to fight the world to be with her. He reached Anga in the evening to a grand welcome. King Rompada welcomed him with both arms, declaring him as the savior of the kingdom. He showered him with gold ornaments, exotic jewelry, and the best of clothing from across the world, But his eyes were searching for that one prize, his Shanta. After looking around for some time, his eyes fell on her, the same sense of beauty and serenity as before. Rishyasringa was as usual blanked out on looking at Shanta and was jolted back to reality after hearing his name being called out. It was time for the yagya to be done under the supervision of Rishyasringa to end the drought in Anga. The stakes were very high. Every man, woman, and child was eagerly waiting for the rains. The yagya was going to be the miracle to bring back their lives to normal, helmed by Rishyasringa, their savior. The yagya began. Rishyasringa, using all his powers and knowledge, began to appease the rain god. Rishyasringa's power and knowledge was of no match for Indra, and soon raindrops started falling. The crowd rejoiced, seeing rain after so many years. Half an hour into the yagya, the central reservoir of the king of Anga was finally full, accompanied by tears of joy on everyone's face, coupled with cries of "All hail Rishyasringa." The people of Anga got what they wanted. Their savior, however, was looking around for what he wanted. He had made the ultimate sacrifice for the love of his life. He had gone against his father's wishes and, with the yagya done, now wanted to meet Shanta and take her back home. He couldn't get alone time with her. Everyone wanted to pay homage to their savior, not letting him alone for a second. After wading through the crowd of people, he finally met Shanta. She was again looking at him with a curious expression. Rompada was happy with the outcome, but equally feared sage Vibhandak's wrath. To save himself and his kingdom from the sage's curse, though unwillingly, he offered his adopted daughter Shanta's hand in marriage to Rishyasringa. A lesser-known fact is that Shanta's biological parents are King Dashrath and his queen Kaushalya, who are also the father and mother of Lord Ram. This whole incident is said to have happened before the birth of Lord Ram. After the marriage, Rishyasringa and Shanta returned to the forest to lead a life of austerity. Later, when King Dashrath humbly invited his son-in-law Rishyasringa to Ayodhya to perform a Putra Kameshti Yagya in order to attain a son. As a result of the success of the Yagya, Dashrath was blessed with 4 divine children in the form of Ram, Bharat, Lakshman and Shatrughna.